In this video, we'll be taking a look on pages Word 58 and 59, which is entitled Work with Tabs. Tabs allow you to align text at a specific location in a document. A tab stop is a point on the horizontal ruler that indicates the location at which to align text. By default, tab stops are located every ½ inch from the left margin, but you can also set custom tab stops. Using tabs, you can align text to the left, right, or center of a tab stop. You can align the text at a decimal point or insert a bar character. Now, if you take a look on page Word 59, you will see that on table C1 will actually give you the listing of the different types of tabs, and we'll go over those here momentarily. Now, you set tabs using the horizontal ruler or the tabs dialog box. Now, on step 1, it tells us that we want to scroll as needed, and we're going to scroll up until we get to this 5 lines of text here that begins with trips, date, and cost. So we want to select these right here. Now, before you set a tab stop for existing text, you must select the paragraphs for which you want to set the tabs. And of course, to remove a tab stop, you just drag it off the ruler. We'll show you that here momentarily. Step 2 tells us to point to the tab indicator at the left end of the horizontal ruler. And this is our tab indicator right here. Currently, this shows us a left tab, which is used to set the start position of text so that the text runs to the right of the tab stop as you type. If you would click on this, again, and this is part of step 3 here, this will show us a center tab, which is used to set the center align position of the text so that the text stays centered on the tab stop as you type. If we click on it again, this is a right tab, and this is used to set the right or in position of the text so that the text moves to the left of the tab stop as you type. If we click on this again, this is a decimal tab, and this is used to set the position of the decimal point so that numbers align around the decimal point as you type. And then finally on there we have the bar tab, and this is used to insert a vertical bar at the tab position. Now of course, to get back to the left tab again, we want to click on this a couple times. Of course, this is showing us a couple other features in which we'll take a look at in later videos. But we want to go back to the left tab stop, which is the one that is indicated right here. And this is of course on step 3. We want to make sure that the left tab is the active tab type, so that it should look like this. And then we want to click on the 1 inch mark on the horizontal ruler. So we go to our horizontal ruler here and we just click right on the 1 inch mark, and you'll notice that the tab stop has been placed at that 1 inch mark. Then it wants us to click on the 3½ inch mark on the horizontal ruler. So we go to here to 3½ and we click on it as well. Now this has put a left tab stop at the 1 inch mark and another one on the 3½ inch mark on this horizontal ruler. Now when you click the horizontal ruler, it inserts a tab stop of the active type for the selected paragraph or paragraphs. Now, as we said before, if you added an extra tab stop but do not want it, you just click on it and drag it off the ruler and it will disappear. Step 4 tells us that we want to click the tab indicator twice. So we go over here to our tab indicator and click on this twice so that the right tab icon is now active. Then we want to go over here and click on the 5 inch mark right here on the horizontal ruler. And what that has done is that has inserted a right tab stop at that 5 inch mark on the horizontal ruler. Next, on step 5, it tells us that we want to place our insertion point before the word trip on the first line. And then it tells us to press our tab key. You'll notice that instead of stopping at the ½ inch mark, it has went to our first tab stop. If we then put our insertion point before dates and hit our tab again on our keyboard, notice it now moves it to the next tab stop. And then next, if we place our tab before the cost, our insertion point before the cost, and hit tab, you'll notice that it has aligned it there. And of course, inserting a tab before trip left aligns the text at the 1-inch mark. Inserting a tab before dates left aligns the text at the 3.5-inch mark. And inserting a tab before cost right aligns the cost at the 5-inch mark. Now, step 6 tells us that we want to insert a tab at the beginning of each of the remaining lines in the list. So if we go through here and place our insertion point before Rashahan Desert Safari, hit our tab. The Inca Highlands, hit the tab. For the Everest, hit the tab. And before cycling, hit the tab as well. Now, in this case, all the paragraphs are left aligned at the 1-inch mark. Step 7 tells us that we want to insert a tab before each October in the list and insert a tab before each $sign in the list. And what this is going to do is that this is going to take the dates and left align them at the 3.5-inch mark, and the prices are going to be aligned at the right aligned at the 5-inch mark. Of course, remember to place the insertion point in a paragraph to see the tab stops for the paragraph on the horizontal ruler. So if I would click somewhere else, you'll notice that the tab stops are gone. However, if I put my insertion point back in this paragraph, the tab stops will reappear because those tab stops are only for the paragraph or paragraphs that we have selected. So we're going to go through here and complete lining these up. So we're putting our insertion point before all the Octobers and hitting our tab, and then we place the insertion point before the $sign and hitting tab. So now all of our text is aligned up. Next, on step 8, it wants us to select the 5 lines of tab text. Once we do that, it tells us that we want to drag the right tab stop to the 5.5-inch mark on the horizontal ruler. So we did have it at the 5-inch mark, but we're going to click on this and drag it over to the 5.5-inch mark, which will actually go through and move that tab stop to a new location. So now the prices are right aligned with the 5.5-inch mark instead of at the 5-inch mark. Step 9 tells us that we're going to select the last 4 lines of the tab text. So you'll have to deselect your text and select these last 4 lines here. Then next, we're going to click the launcher in the paragraph group, just right up here. And then we're going to go down to the bottom of the paragraph dialog box, and we're going to click on tabs. Once we have that, the tabs dialog box will now open. And you can use the tabs dialog box to set tab stops, change the position or alignment of existing tab stops, clear tab stops, and apply tab leaders to tabs. Now, tab leaders are the lines that appear in front of tab text. And we'll take a look at those here because we're going to set some here momentarily. Now, of course, another tip that you can also use is that you can double-click a tab stop on the ruler to open up the tabs dialog box. So there's another way of doing that as well. Step 10 tells us that we want to click on the 3.5-inch mark in our tab stops positions. Then next, we're going to click on the To option button in the leader section. So we're going to add a leader to the information between the end of the text and the 1 to the 3.5-inch tab stop. Once we do that, we have to click Set to accept the changes. Then next, we're going to click on the 5.5-inch tab stop. Then we're also going to click on the number 2 option in the leaders group, or in the leaders section, and we're going to click on Set. Once we have those leaders set, we can click on OK, deselect our text, and you'll now notice that the leaders are now there. And of course, these are just dotted tab leaders, which is going to be added before the 3.5 and the 5.5-inch tab stops in the last 4 lines of the tab text. This is incredibly useful for when you're using this to create a table of contents. I know many times I've tried to create those and it turns out that they don't line up correctly, and if I try to hit my period multiple times to get these lines, they never line up properly. So tab leaders is the only way of making these little lines so that they end perfectly where they should. And that concludes the information that is on pages Word 58 and 59, which is working with tabs. Go ahead and make sure that you save your document and you're ready to move on to the next page on there, which is Word 60 and 61, in which we're going to be working with indents.